Good evening and welcome to Deadline Dilemmas for Gameweek 13. A little bit early in the week this week. We're here on a Tuesday, and it feels like it's been ages since we've done one of these, Pras.
It has indeed, and I wonder how many people got a notification on YouTube saying Deadline Dilemmas and freaked out that the deadline is tomorrow or something. But yeah, good to be back, and thank you for accommodating. I have to tell sort of the viewers that it was more on me that I couldn't do tomorrow or day after. So thank you for Rich for doing this on a Tuesday.
No, I quite like it. I quite like it. We had that run, didn't we? Where because there were so many Friday deadlines, we were doing it the night before.
Yeah.
But I mean, in a way, that was stressful because I felt like I was making decisions on the stream, and I still wasn't setting my mind. So it feels a little less stressful, even though we probably got a little less information. So there's probably going to be a few caveats with ideas we're going to look at.
I think we're largely okay, right? I mean, I think there's only the South American guys who play tonight, but after that, everyone's traveling back. So hopefully this one is not like we're missing out on Tuesday night Champions League games and Wednesday night Champions League games and, Europa League. So none of that. But there are a lot of things that have happened over the international break. More, it feels like, than normal, at least to well-known players like Bowen, Mitoma, even other options, like a Kudus. There's been some issues, Trippier. So we can talk about all of that as well as our teams.
Yeah, no, we definitely got a lot to talk about. And I mean, I'm sweating over Saliba right now because France are playing Greece as we record, as we're live, and Greece are actually beating France now 2-1.
So Saliba is not doing his thing. It's his first game for a long time, right?
It must be. I mean, he came on as a sub against Gibraltar.
First start, yeah. I mean,
first start, yeah. No, it is. But yeah, they're not doing too well. But I'm sure by the end of this stream, they'll be winning.
The chat can let us know if there's anything FPL related in the games that are going on right now, and we can shout it out. So before we sort of go to our team, so let's talk about the Black Friday sale at Fantasy Football Scout. So basically what this is if you sign up to become a member by Friday, then you get a free gift from a website called Good Team on Paper. And Good Team on Paper basically do some merchandise. I'm actually bringing up what... they make sports team posters, prints, they make some prints, gifts, anything that you want to customize that is sports related. You will get a £12 gift from Good Team on Paper if you sign up to become a member.
Yeah, so it's worth waiting till Friday if you're going to sign up today.
Is it only on Friday or till Friday? Oh, maybe it's on Friday. Okay, yeah.
I'm not actually sure. I'm sure David or someone can clarify in the comments.
Now that we've said it, if you sign up by Friday, come to me if they don't give you the gift.
Let Pras know. He'll sort you out.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's get straight into it anyway. Because I've got your team on screen now. And you told me you've got a few dilemmas, as in a few options you could go down. You've not spoiled it by telling me, so I'm excited to hear this.
So I'm going to read it out first, and actually I've got a couple of days to think about it. So, but it's good to get early views. So I've got Areola in goal, Gabriel, Gehi, and Livramento starting. Livramento for people who are panicking and, people like me who went for him. At least in this game, hopefully he starts because Lewis Hall can't start. He's a loanee from Chelsea, so he's out. Now, unless Matt Ritchie plays or someone else starts, hopefully Livramento is okay. And then in midfield, I've got Saka, Son, Salah, Palmer, Mitoma, who's the problem, and then Haaland and Watkins. So, I mean, one macro thing is Salah, Son, Saka, Palmer, Haaland, and Watkins. I don't see any transfers there unless there's an injury. So now I'm trying to work out between now and game week 18 and beyond, what do I need to do with my team? So on the bench, I've got Nketiah, my little star who got me some points, and now his time is up. So, just like every other gem, you get them for a period, and now Jesus is back fit, so he needs to go. I've got Cash on the bench as well, and then Taylor. So here's the thing. I mean, at this stage, I could have done a defensive transfer like Cash to Saliba and started over Livramento, but I don't, this is not the week I think that you have to get Saliba. I do get people who are doing it. And obviously when we'll come to your team, we'll discuss it because their next few fixtures are good enough that you can double up. And this week, if you get lucky, you get lucky. So I get it, but I don't think the Saliba moves has to happen this week, if at all. So in my case, I don't think my defense needs touching. If Mitoma was fit, it's a different discussion. I may have thought about it as a luxury move. So now I come to my attack. And as I mentioned, there's 6 players here, Saka, Son, Salah, Palmer, Haaland, and Watkins that I will not touch, hopefully. for the next 6-7 weeks. So then it's Mitoma and Nketiah. So there's 3 options that I want to talk to you.
Okay.
And it's basically, it goes through the spectrum of, if I downgrade Nketiah to an Archer, Mitoma can become a Bowen. Obviously, Bowen, there's injury doubts. We don't know how serious that is. He could even make this weekend's game or not. If he doesn't make this weekend's game, then that's the Burnley, that's the money game. So then maybe that option is out. But I could do that. I could do Archer and I could do Bowen. Then if I want to upgrade Archer, if I go up to, let's say, a Solanke, then I can do Mitoma down to Gordon, and I can do Nketiah up to Solanke. So that then gives me basically a good front 8. And I would pretty much play, apart from this week where I probably play Gordon over Palmer, which is not ideal, but still it's a home game. Pretty much I would play the other guys and not Gordon. And Gordon would be there as my backup 8th attacker for the crunch period. And for game week 18, he plays Luton. So it's a good team. Solanke has great fixtures. And so it sets up with a nice 8. Or I can go even further than that. And I can go, instead of Mitoma, I can go Souček, because Souček plays Burnley. He's playing number 10.
Yep.
And instead of Nketiah, I can get Isak or even Darwin Núñez. Darwin Núñez, I'm less keen on because we're going into a difficult Christmas period. You know, there's midweek game weeks. So Isak I like a lot, but he's coming back from injury.
I know you're talking about midfielders and attackers, but I guess my first thought would be then the defenders, as in, where do you see yourself going with defenders? As in, would going for Bowen, for example, would that block you from getting a defender you want to get? Because that seems like where you're going to use all your transfers.
Yeah, so look,
future.
I mean, with defenders, who do I envisage getting in the future between now and game week 18? So it could be Saliba. If I have the luxury, it could be him.
Yep.
It could be Colwill for Gehi. I think that's a nice, we all know that as soon as the Crystal Palace fixtures become tough, the Chelsea ones become good. So I think Gehi to Colwill is an easy move that I could do. It could be James if I feel very nice and my team looks great and James looks back. Mm-hmm. I think Cash, I don't think I'll hold until 18. So he could become a Porro. He could become a Saliba. He could even become a City defender. So these are the guys who I think I will get, but none of them are ones that I'm hugely excited about that I need to save up for. So
you've got the money already, basically, haven't you? As in the money you've got in defenders, you're not going to greatly increase that.
Correct.
So you don't. Okay.
So these are the 3 plans that are basically the outlandish plans where I can spend all the money on Mitoma and Nketiah and make them into something else. The more logical and the one that I think I will do, which is the more popular move, which is Mitoma to Mbeumo and Nketiah to Archer. Now I can't do Mitoma to Mbeumo directly. I'm 0.1 short, but then I don't need Nketiah anyway. So Nketiah has to go this week for value reasons, for the fact that he's not going to come good, I don't think at all now. Even if Jesus was basically had a setback, Trossard is now in the picture. So he's done his job. He needs to become someone. So I think Nketiah to Archer and Mitoma to Mbeumo makes sense in another way, because it gives me, exactly like you said, it gives me 0.9 million to play. Then I can do Cash to Saliba. I can even do Cash to White if I wanted to. I can do Gehi to a James. I can do Stratoshka. So I always get his name now. Strakosha.
Backup goalie, yeah.
Yeah, Strakosha to Flecken. And that's also something that interests me, because from game week 14, they play Luton. They have better fixtures than West Ham for a small period. And then for the blank, I can play Areola, and then I have a double game week keeper. So that's basically going Mbeumo not only gives me a better midfielder, which I know in my head, Mbeumo is probably better than any of these guys that I've talked about, Bowen, Gordon, and Souček. So that's probably going to be where I go. But I just wanted to sort of tease out some other ideas that I had.
Yeah, I think the fact that you'll have more money doing what is the obvious move, as in Mbeumo and Archer, you'll have more flexibility as well. Because while the defenders you like are pretty much the same price, I guess you've got that extra buffer in case someone else does emerge. Plus, like you say, the keeper as well, with the double game week coming up and the blank game week coming up. I think a lot of people are going to be looking at Flecken. So, I mean, it's quite. I mean, I'm quite biased because my plan is probably very similar, and we have the same front 8 if I go through with my plan. And I think you've got a little bit more money for defenders.
Yeah.
I think the other thing has been, I mean, in a couple of game weeks, I think let's say you got Mbeumo in for Mitoma. I don't think you're ever going to play Solanke.
That's the thing. I could have. So, for example, I can also do Nketiah to Archer. Sorry, Nketiah to Solanke if I did cash to Lascelles. So I was, and that will also give me enough money for Mitoma to Mbumo. But it's exactly what you said, where I love Solanke for the next few weeks. But then if I have Palmer with great fixtures, Solanke with great fixtures, and Mbumo alongside these 4 big hitters, I'm just giving myself a headache, and I'm almost losing value because I have this guy on the bench who's every week who's startable. So I ditched the Solanke plan with a heavy heart.
I think the emergence of Palmer, because obviously when we wildcarded in 10, we knew Palmer was on penalties, but I felt like I didn't know how good he'd be, like how good his underlying numbers would be, how important it'd be. You know, he's had his England debut now as well. I mean, he's played twice for England already.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think his stock has just risen so much that you can probably justify Archer more than you could before. And he'll fill in nicely in the blank as well. I suppose that would be one time you would play Solanke, actually, wouldn't it? It would be in game week 18 when I said you'd never play him. That's it.
But then you're basically carrying all that money, 2 million, for a fixture, which is nice, in game week 18. Let me just bring it up. So he will play... Where do I have Bournemouth? He'll play Nottingham Forest away. It's not amazing. Nottingham Forest a little better. But then, Sheffield United also, it's not like the end of the world. They play Villa. You have an Archer starting. It's not the end of the world. I mean, it's probably 2 points versus 5 or 6 expected points, or 3 versus 6 or something. So there is a delta, but 2 million carrying that on your first sub, where you can use that 2 million to get a Flecken, or you get a James, or you get a Saliba. I think you can make that up. So I've ditched the Solanke plan for now.
Yeah. Also, I hate playing by EO. I really do. But there is something very annoying about, let's say you go down that Solanke route and everyone else has got Archer. You just know if Archer hauls in game week 18, you've not only spent more money, but you've been screwed over. Obviously, it could go the other way, where Solanke is the better player, has a better fixture. You could make a gain on people who are being forced to start Archer.
Correct. That was the thinking. By the way, if Botman, again, if still on Friday, we hear that Botman is still, because there's been so many conflicting reports on Botman.
No.
I mean, 1 week the guy is on the grass, the other week he's having surgery and out for 12 weeks. I mean, the latest for listeners is basically that it appears that he doesn't need surgery. And so it appears that because of that, he will be back sooner rather than later. Now, that sooner could be 3 weeks, it could be 2 weeks, it could be a month, but it's not going to be 12 weeks. But it could also be the case he comes back and then he feels that he does need surgery, and then he's out for much longer. So long story short, Eddie Howe's not going to tell us. We will not know. He will just show up on the subs bench or in the starting lineup 1 week, and that's how we'll know if Botman is back.
Yeah, no, you're too right with that. And the Livramento thing's interesting because we both bought Livramento in. And I think one of the things I kept thinking of different routes in my head, like what could happen, almost like the flowcharts. And one of the things was, we go for Livramento, and then we get told, 3 weeks later, 2 weeks later, that actually Botman's going to be out, he needs surgery. It hasn't closed the door on us getting Lascelles down the line and just having Lascelles and Livramento.
Agreed.
Yeah. So, I mean, we both sold Tsimikas. I mean, actually, can we talk about Tsimikas?
We can. There's a lot of people
too much, not about what happened, but more, I guess,
some sold him.
Where your plan is, are you looking to get Tsimikas back or?
Look, we talked about it on the wire that Liverpool have, from game week 14, 15 and 16, they play Sunday, Wednesday, Saturday. There is no chance Tsimikas starts all 3 unless Gomez is injured and they're completely there are issues. Okay. So the counter to that is people will say, well, do you think Livramento is going to start? No, but I don't intend to start Livramento in every game either. So it's a case of Livramento was supposed to be here. Maybe he'll play this week, then he can sit on the bench and then maybe only needed in game week 18. But for Tsimikas owners, if he's the guy who you're relying on to start, he's not going to start every week. So this is why a lot of people, and he's playing City next. So you're saying 13, he's playing City, 14, 15, 16, he's going to miss 1 game at least. You don't know which one it is. So I didn't want that complication. So I don't see myself going back for Tsimikas now, unless now we hear that Robertson is still way away, even though we had actually a positive update from Robertson that he's back soon, he's recovering well. from Anfield Express. But I don't think he has to be a buy, but I've not closed the door. I mean, if he does, and if he continues to surprise us, Liverpool are a good team. He's a good player. There were reasons why we got him in, and he's still cheap. So you can still go down to a Simicast whenever you want. But I don't particularly see it. I'd rather probably think I'll go for a Colwill for Chelsea with good fixtures, solid, nailed, if that sort of comes about by game week 16.
Yeah, no, I feel the same about Simicast. So I'm glad you said that. It doesn't feel like one I desperately need to go back to.
Yeah.
But if there is the option, I'll consider it. Although they're still going to have those 3 games, aren't they? In what is it? Is it 7 days or 9 days? No, 7
6 days even. It's Sunday to Saturday.
Of course, yeah. Wow, yeah.
So it's very tight.
I'm going to be quite open to that, but I don't think I will go back. But I don't think it's a stubbornness. And also with these non-nailed players, I mean, let's take Maguire for example, or a Man United defender. Obviously, over the last 2 game weeks, 2 clean sheets. Maguire got 13 points, and obviously he's played 90 minutes in both. And then you get someone like Simicast. I mean, I know he got 15 and then 1, so he did get more. But you can get these scenarios, can't you? Most of these defenders, you're hoping they get an assist. You're hoping they get the 12-pointer.
Correct.
But the nailed player can just get 2 clean sheets, do absolutely nothing else, and it's not a loss over the 2 weeks. And I feel like sometimes we can forget that.
That's 15 points. I mean, you can't. Those are freak events, right? And it was not like, it was a nailed on 15-pointer, like one of those Trippier ones, right? It was one where the second assist was a little bit jammy. The clean sheet, they could have lost the clean sheet as well. Nothing, there's no salt here. It's just the fact that, look, sometimes these hauls happen. So he's not suddenly become a 15-point player. There are still weaknesses in his game. He's still a minutes risk. If you have him, I think it's fine. But I don't think people need to be desperate to get him back.
No, do you know what? I wasn't even going to mention his name on the stream, but I just got curious looking at your team, what defenders you'll be targeting, because I think that Archer and Mbumo move looks tailor-made, but I am really, really biased. But the fact you're getting that extra money as well, our teams are going to become very similar. They digress quite a bit. My punt, you had an Nketiah, I had Pedro.
Yeah,
obviously, I haven't quite been rewarded for that. Probably the opposite.
You had to bench Mbumo for him, right?
I had to bench Mbumo for him the first week. We both started Palmer at least.
Yeah, next week.
Nketiah has done you really, really well.
Well, this week he didn't, because I started him against Burnley. I had to take a chance, and he got a point, but it's fine. I mean, I think over the week from that position, I've made like 30 points from Palmer or Nketiah. So I can't complain.
You had 17, then 12.
And then 1.
And then 1, yeah. So you can't complain too much about that.
Can't complain at all. So I'm going to look at the chat, Rich, for a second. Okay. Firstly, shout out to my boy, Sonaldo.
Oh, yeah.
He's in the chat. So he's tuning in live. I think he's in Stockholm, if I saw his tweet. So
he's
hello to him.
Around the world recently, isn't he?
He is always. And then I see FPL Psycho, great manager. I speak to him quite a bit. He's actually on wildcard at the moment. And so let me ask you his question, and then I'll also come to Chris's question after that. So he's on wildcard at the moment. I've looked at his wildcard team. It's quite spicy. I'm sure he'll post it on Twitter.
I thought it would be.
I mean, he's actually quite maybe the opposite of spicy is not sensible, but he's a stable manager, a bit like you and me, with not too many punts, being sensible. He'll always have Mbumo in his team. That's the sign. So but I've seen his team, and he's basically looking to sacrifice either Son or Saka, but maybe after the Bowen injury that has changed. So I'll catch up with him. But his question is for Bowen. So he wanted a midfield of Bowen, Mbumo, Salah, Palmer, and who am I missing? Saka or Son. Saka. One of the two.
So does that then enable that downgrade from Son to Bowen? Downgrade is in price wise, sorry, I mean.
Correct. The downgrade allows
does that enable Trippier or the third, like the Solanke?
One of the two things.
Okay.
But to cut it short, his question is, would you have Simicast on wildcard?
See, I think I would. I was actually thinking about this earlier, because that's what I think about. I would, even though I sold him. He's still so cheap. I mean, I'd rather have him than I've got Charlie Taylor and Maguire on my bench, for example. Right. So short answer, yes.
Maybe. I mean, are we being blinded by Livramento's benching and his 15-pointer? Would I make the same transfer on wildcard? I mean, we kind of did, because I was going to burn a transfer otherwise. but maybe I would go back. I don't know. Livramento not starting in that game has obviously reduced his expected minutes because Hall can start from next
Oh,
week.
sorry,
So
did you say
maybe.
Livramento? I was talking about Simicast.
No. So I'm still
Oh.
debating between
Got
Simicast
yeah.
or Livramento. So
I mean,
would
I
still
mean, the
think,
beauty of wildcard is you could have both, although I guess that's quite a bit of risk going into the Christmas period. Something I was thinking about as well is when we wildcarded and we obviously went for Haaland, but there was a lot of no Haaland talk around the time, and we did say that Palmer and Simicast were the players that enabled it.
Correct.
And it's just very ironic that didn't start Palmer. He scored a penalty. So, I mean, we both sold Simicast, who got 15 pointers.
Yeah.
And then Haaland hauled.
Yes. I mean, this is the thing where it's flip-flopped a lot from game week 11 and 12, where game week 11, the players who hauled weren't on wildcard as such. Because, remember, Bruno did well. So people actually on game week 19 strategy did much better in game week 11. And then in game week 12, it completely flipped because, Salah and Haaland, the two biggest owned players, only people on wildcard who chose to have both of them have them. So I agree. It sort of swung about quite a bit.
And then Haaland did it in the most painful way because, well, for non-owners, because obviously it was the last game of the game week as well. So you get to see your actual gain before that player's played. But so okay. I think I would have Simicast in my team, but I wouldn't have him like if he's your third defender or something. I don't like that. It would be more your fourth or fifth.
I think I saw his team with Reece James in it as well. I told you he's going a little bit spicy in the defense, so it's pretty good.
I don't know if that would change my opinion. If you're going to have Reece James and then have Simicast, that's two risky players, isn't it? You're not going to get that update on Lascelles in time, probably being on wildcard.
Yeah, maybe.
So it's hard because, I mean, looking at nailed defenders, one I was looking at last week, obviously got injured, was Dunk, because I just wanted to have a boring player who plays, every single week and just gets at least the 2 points. And there's not many of them around at the moment for a reasonable price.
Suddenly the defenders were short of a lot of good defenders. But look, fixtures will clear up. I think Porro is a good defender, especially with Maddison out. He's taking set pieces. I think Cher is still a good defender with Newcastle's fixtures when they improve. So they just appear and suddenly then we'll have 5 good defenders and we'll have to pick 3. Just how cycles work in FPL. And after game week 21, money won't be a problem anymore. People will have Trippier because Salah won't be there, Son won't be there, Momo won't be there. So the dynamics keep changing. But I think as of right now, you're right that it's a little bit tight. But I want to talk. There's some panic in the chat because Mitoma is going to drop today. So I want to get your views on. There's 2 super chats from Christopher Fry. So one is Mitoma out before the price drop. Money is tight. Any reason to hold Mitoma?
I mean, the guy who said it was Andy. I can't remember his name. He's the Athletic correspondent. I think that's the word, or athletic journalist for Brighton.
Andy Naylor.
That's it. Yeah. So I would trust what he says, and it's not the best fixture anyway. So. Yeah, if it's Mitoma to Mbumo, and I'm very aware, this is the 3rd podcast I've done in this international break, and all I've talked about is Mbumo, but I think there's obvious reasons to go there. So I would. But then I've done a transfer, a week ago for this game week. So, but money is tight, and there's a lot of plans people are looking at, and Mbumo is a big part of those plans, I'd imagine.
Yeah. Well, he's added that he can actually do Mitoma to Saka for free if he does it tonight. I don't think you should wait. So, if you can get to Saka for free for in one move, and selling Mitoma enables that, it's a no-brainer. I mean, even though Saka's been slightly disappointing more recently, I think both Rich and I are similar types of managers where you have to go by long-term data. You have to look at minutes. You have to look at the fact that he's on penalties, and all of those add up to the fact that he's an excellent pick during this festive period.
I think it's a no-brainer because I would want an Arsenal attacker, and I think he's really the only one you can go for. And I guess you could go for Martinelli, but I think there's no point when you've got Saka on pens. So
correct.
Yeah, I would just go for it. I mean, obviously there could be a late injury or something, but he played yesterday for England. There was no sign of a knock. He looks, pretty good. I only watched the second half live, but I don't see any reason not to.
So I've got there's a lot of defender questions. A lot of people have defender questions. Okay, so people are asking, we should rank the defenders this week so that they can decide on their benches. So,
oh wow,
I'm going to say Trippier is number one. Nobody comes close to Trippier any week. So he's number one. Because Trent is playing City, so Liverpool defenders are out, City defenders are out. I would then say Palace defenders. So Trippier, then your Palace defender who play Luton, then your Arsenal defenders, Saliba and Gabriel. Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I wouldn't bench an Arsenal defender, but the only reason I bought one in this week is 14 and 15. I think it's almost a week you can look long-term for transfer-wise anyway. But I mean, bench order, it's difficult, isn't it? Because there's nothing that stands out. I agree with Palace. I'd have Palace right up there. Oh, it's grim, isn't it? I mean, West Ham defenders, but I don't think many people have West Ham defenders.
Yeah, then it's West Ham. What do you think about? So I see Wranglers in the chat. He's asking between play Cash or Maguire. Who would you play?
I've sold Cash, but I would probably play him over Maguire. You've just got more attacking threat. Everton, the data looks really good, as Wrangler would know.
Yeah,
but yeah. So I think I would start Cash. He's still, right up there, isn't he, for defensive stats? Attacking stats for defenders.
Yeah.
Even though it's dropped off that little bit. So yeah, I would start Cash.
I agree with you.
I mean, I've actually got Maguire benched at the moment for Livramento.
Everton are going to score. There's also a little bit of the club's gone through something, right? So siege mentality, they will be up for it. And we have been horrible away from home. I just think Everton score. So, I mean, you get some upside with Cash with his attacking threat, although Maguire has some as well. You're talking 2 points versus 1 point, but I would say Cash.
I wish we could see some of that siege mentality after points deductions at Reading, though. I believe that happens when I see it. But yeah, I think Everton will score. So I think there's a lot of defenders this week. You'll just go for the attacking upside. The clean sheet odds look really bad this week. When you compare it to normal game weeks.
Right. So interestingly, I'm looking at review. Maguire is above Cash.
Is that minutes? What's Cash's minutes at though?
79.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, that's probably fair, to be honest. And I'm guessing Maguire's 88 or so.
89.
Yeah, they're slowly creeping up.
So it's 50-50.
It's one of those calls. I think you could just have to follow the same process every week. You either go for some kind of, have some rule. Do you just go for the clean sheet odds, for example?
Yeah.
Or do you go for like attacking data? Or if it's below, like if say the clean sheets are below a certain percentage.
Yeah, I would look at market odds. Obviously, I mean, Wrangler again knows this is underlying data.
Yeah, we're telling the wrong person.
0%. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's between that. So defenders, guys, Trippier, Palace, Arsenal defenders, then the rest, right? I mean, then between Maguire or a Cash or a Porro, you guys decide. I mean,
there's a lot of much of a muchness because even the okay teams that have pretty good fixtures, they're away from home. But like you say, Trippier, obviously absolute no-brainer. Livramento over Maguire. Maybe part of that's because, he's a shiny new toy, but he's going to definitely play at least.
Yeah. Look, he's very attacking as well, man. And it's Newcastle defense. I think Newcastle will be the biggest beneficiaries of this international break. Like they were crawling through the matches by the end after those European commitments, the weekend games. That Bournemouth game, they didn't want to play. I mean, now you have a couple of weeks where, Trippier's not played a lot. Gordon's had a full rest. Isak is back. Almiron is back from injury. These guys have all not played in the international break. Your defenders have not played too much. I think they'll be at least, to an extent, I would think back to a more disciplined Newcastle. Whether they score 4-5 goals again, like the flamboyant Newcastle we saw in the first 10 weeks, maybe not. But they'll be, again, a disciplined, good team.
And it is 2 games at St James's Park where they tend to do better as well. But I do kind of miss that settled back four. That was quite nice. I mean, even then, the worry at the end of last season was that Burn might not be nailed, and he was.
Right.
So it was just the most simple back four. They were all very reasonably priced as well. That seems to have changed somewhat with the Botman and Burn injuries. It's not made it easy. It's made it a lot harder.
Correct. I agree. So I think that's all on defenders. People should know that Trippier left the England squad, but he's back. He was spotted in training today. So we've given you an update on Botman, on Trippier. Any other defenders that need an update? Udogi is back from suspension. He was only out for 1 game because it was a double yellow.
Yeah.
So Edogi should be back. Lewis Hall is his tied loan because he's a loanee, so
Yeah, same as
he can't
Raya
play.
actually. I know goalkeeper, but he
David
can't
Ray
play
as
against
well,
Brentford.
correct. So that's it on defenders. Let's come to midfielders, and someone's asking again. Yes, Mitoma is pretty much. I mean, again, you cannot be confirmed until the manager says he's out. But the Athletic journalist Andy Naylor, he thinks he's out for Forest. Um, Whether you want to believe that and take him out tonight because he's dropping. Also remember what price you bought him at. So if you were like me in Gameweek 10, I bought him at 6.5. He's currently 6.6. If he drops, it doesn't change my sale price. So you
Yeah,
don't
that's a
have to
very
sell
good
him.
point actually.
Yeah.
Very good point. Because that might, the person who did the super chat earlier, if they, because I think most people did buy at 6.5.
Yeah.
And then he went up. So yeah, that might not actually have any impact there.
Correct. I think the only impact is Mbumo could rise by today or tomorrow.
Yeah, no, he could. I mean, I guess the only good thing, I mean, people may have, if people had 2 free transfers, no injuries, they may have looked at doing Matoma out a week early anyway to jump on Mbumo.
Correct.
Because Matoma's away at Forest. I know Mbumo's got Arsenal, but at least it's at home. So, I mean, the worst case, let's say you did go early tonight because you want to save that 0.1. What's the worst that really happens? You get kind of the same thing for this week-ish.
Correct.
And then beyond then, you're laughing. You've got much, much better fixtures. You're going to get 90 minutes every week until he goes to AFCON.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's on Mitoma. So on Bowen. So Bowen is one that a lot of people have. He's like 50% owned. You and I don't have. But he apparently left the England squad because he had picked up an injury in training. Now, what Southgate said was they couldn't assess him. They just basically said, you stay back. You don't have to travel. And so that's what he did. So he went back. And there are some rumors of him having a scan today. And this is now all rumor territory. There's no quotes. People are saying the scans are showing some fluid in his knee, which can be removed in like 9 days. So he may miss just the Burnley game. But it could be anything from he's completely okay or he's out for 4-5 weeks. And so absolutely not to panic on Bowen. You don't need to sell him. You just wait till Moyes' press conference. It could be a case of just missing a game in which you just play Archer or someone if you want to hold him. Or if he's out longer term, there's lots of options for you anyway that go below Bowen's price.
Yeah, that's going to be one of those ones that probably be a few today where we say wait till the press conference is on Friday. Obviously, we're recording Tuesday, so it's so early in the week. I mean, I said to you before we started recording, I'll keep it brief because by Friday we should have a firm update.
Correct.
I did think there were some people saying this is an international break injury, but I just found it weird. This was Bowen's chance to try and get in that 23-man squad for the Euros because it's not a 26-man squad anymore.
Right.
Obviously, there's players like Eze returning from injury. Sterling's been out the last few squads. Palmer's, his stock is rising dramatically. So if Bowen wanted to get in the England squad, I don't think with something very, very, very minor, he'd pull out of the squad.
I agree. And he would have probably started. I don't know, maybe Saka, because he didn't play the previous game, so Saka was going to start anyway. Maybe that played
maybe
into
Foden didn't. I don't know, because Foden started both, I think.
He did.
Yeah, I think he'd have definitely got some minutes. Or would have hoped.
That's his commitment, right? I mean, if you want to be in the squad, you don't just leave. Southgate doesn't like that.
No,
so
he had some words with Rashford, didn't he? Well, we think it was Rashford, but he made some comments when Rashford pulled out the squad, a few months ago or a year ago, whenever it was.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that's on Bowen. There's an important one on Kudus as well. There's 2 updates on Kudus. So one, Antonio. So Antonio got injured in the international break. Initially, people thought it's for months and months. It's a long-term injury. But today, from credible journalists like, I think, Ornstein and others, they've said it's only 2-3 weeks. So it's not too bad. Why does it impact Kudus? Because had Antonio been out for longer, Kudus would have been possibly nailed in that right spot and Bowen would have played up front. But now there is still a problem where Kudus is a great player, but he's still adjusting to the league. If the games are thick and fast, that you get Bowen playing on the right, Antonio starting, and then Kudus is the guy who misses out. If he doesn't play 10, Souček plays 10. So I don't think it's worth it. So that sort of kills the Kudus option for me personally.
Yeah. And again, we haven't actually mentioned the P word today, the penalties.
Yeah.
We may have mentioned it, but there is an argument, I think, with someone like Kudus as well, that wouldn't you just go for the cheaper penalty takers that are available?
Correct. I think Harry posted today that anyone who's like not Mbumo and below Mbumo's price, Palmer's just killed that price bracket because you just go for him when his fixtures turn. So if you want to wait, there's a legitimate argument for going Eze for the next 3 weeks and then Palmer. So you could do that, but I think you can just also straight go to Palmer.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of... I was talking to Andy Mode yesterday about that because I think he was looking at going to Eze, then Palmer. The only risks of that are obviously, well, price changes. Maybe it doesn't matter that much, but it's if other stuff crops up. And you've then got, well, basically 2 transfers booked in because you're going to use a transfer to bring in Eze, then a transfer to bring in Palmer. So it's a more aggressive way of doing it, I suppose. You're properly chasing the fixtures, and you might not end up like we did last week, Pras, where we didn't know what to do with our transfers.
This is the thing. I mean, a lot of people, I just feel like the template is getting very strong by game week 18, where a lot of people will converge on Mbumo, Palmer, which were the peripheral picks, because other people earlier had, Gordon, Bowen, Diaby. All these guys are converging into Palmer and Mbumo in the next few weeks. And they continue to hold the Haalands and the Salahs, the Sakas, the Son, the Watkins. So you're going to have a very similar looking front. And ironically, for all the discussion we've had in defense, that may be the only place where you make gains in the next few weeks, which is fine. Because I think, again, everything will diverge again once game week 2021 starts, when AFCON starts, the double game weeks come, people will get City players, they will have different preferences on City players. Some will go Edison, Diaz, Foden, Alvarez. There's lots of options. So I think not to panic if sort of teams look similar in the next couple of weeks.
No, and there might be people out there that have gone Maddison to Bowen, obviously because of an injury, and then let's say Bowen is ruled out for a bit, then they're going to go Bowen probably to Mbumo. There might be other options they look at.
Yeah.
But yeah, so teams are going to get more and more similar. But at least with those transfers, I mean, if you've done Maddison to Bowen, you've gained, points.
Yeah.
And then you can move on again. So instead of doing like a Livramento or, defensive transfer move where you don't know what to do.
Losing 15 points.
Yeah, exactly. Or I saw people downgrading like Pedro to Archer last week, for example.
Correct.
Those kind of, they're not really going to gain you much, just little bit of money in the bank.
Indeed. All right. I think we've covered a lot of questions in the chat. I don't see any new questions. So why don't we go to your team?
Yeah, let's just touch on mine briefly because I've done my move. And I think our team's
one of two. You might do a second one?
Possibly. I'll run that by you, what my second move might be. I think, again, it seems unlikely I'll do it, but let's see. So I've got Areola in goal. I'm happy with that this week. I'm starting Livramento over Maguire and over Taylor. Then Gabriel and Saliba. So Saliba I bought in for cash. The reason I did that, and I went early, I had the exact money. Right. So it was one of the downsides with going Livramento over Lascelles is I knew I'd have that decision to make. And obviously Saliba scoring meant the price changes were way more aggressive than I ever anticipated. It's not so much for this week. I mean, I'm hoping Mbumo scores and wipes out my double Arsenal clean sheet. But then next 2 game weeks, Arsenal are favourites for clean sheets.
Correct.
Back to back. There's also quite a good rotation with, I mean, basically Arsenal have 2 bad games and they're not even, one of them's not even that bad. It's like Villa away. They rotate quite well with, I think it was Fulham actually. So that might give me an option. If I'm playing double Arsenal defence every week, I could look at Castagna, for example. Something like that down the line. But then you mentioned Chelsea defenders earlier. That probably would actually be the route I go down.
Yeah.
Because
Chelsea you could even downgrade one of them to it, like Gabriel to a Saliba, a Colwell.
That was another thought with bringing Saliba in. I don't have to stick on that double defence. It could just be a nice way of getting rid of Gabriel. But obviously I'll have him for, the 2 good fixtures after this week.
Yeah, I think Gabriel is fine, by the way. I know we're talking defenders again, but he just missed 1 Sheffield United game. He's played every other game.
It's more
apart from the beginning.
Because I don't have much money. I'm not going to change my attackers much, if at all. And game week 18 doesn't look ideal. So I could get in the situation I got in with Livramento, bringing him in last week. Well, I need to use a transfer Gabriel to someone. I mean, he could go to Reece James, for example. But then, I mean, that could go spectacularly wrong. But yeah, so defenders, they're not that exciting. But there's my defenders this week. Not expecting many clean sheets.
Okay, 2 people in the chat have said Saliba is injured. I think they're taking the mick.
That would be... I do have actually alerts on for Saliba.
You have alerts for Saliba specifically?
Yeah, you can put them on SofaScore. Oh, France had a goal disallowed. Oh, they drew with Greece in the end. Saliba's still on the... Well, he finished 90 minutes. But anyway,
Guys, stop taking the mick out of Flappy.
if not, I've got Harry Maguire on the bench, so
Right.
the joke's not on me. I can just slot him in. And then Gabriel would be nailed, probably.
Yeah.
And then my attackers. So I've got Mbumo, Saka, Salah, Son, Palmer, Watkins, Haaland captain. Now, Ferguson's apparently on the bench tonight. So
Yeah.
my dilemma was going to be if I play Pedro or Palmer. If I'm not very confident Pedro starts, I'm just going to play Palmer.
Right.
So the only other move I might do, I've got exact money in the bank, is I could downgrade Pedro to Archer. But the only reason I really do that is price changes, because I'm not going to play Archer over Palmer, even though I feel like that might be seen as quite a close one because of Palmer's fixture.
So firstly, what do you mean exact money? I mean, Archer is way cheaper than Pedro.
Sorry. I've got exact money in the bank now. As in I've got 0.0. I worded that horrifically. I've got nothing in the bank.
But there is value to it. Like if I look at, we look at you can look at Rate My Team or whatever. Archer is higher than Palmer on review, like quite a bit, like 0.7 EV or something. So I didn't actually discuss it, that if I do it, I'm genuinely thinking of starting Archer over Palmer. I don't know if that's stupid, but I'm considering it.
I know the pens are factored in, but I don't think I could. Maybe I could. I mean, Newcastle. We're playing Livramento, so we obviously think Newcastle have a chance at keeping a clean sheet, and they do well at home. I just don't know. I did actually play Archer a couple of times early in the season, and then I benched him against Everton when he hauled. I don't know. I didn't find it fun owning him. He basically does nothing. Not. Even when he's hauled, they've just been wonder goals, or it's gone off the back of, it's bounced off the post and hit Pickford on the back and gone in.
True. He doesn't inspire confidence. That is true. Let me have a look for you. It's a case of, look, for me, I'm doing it because I know for a fact that I will not have Nketiah. So if it's the case for you, where you know that you're not going to have João Pedro till game week 18, although you are capable of having him till game week 18 because you love him. But if you didn't, he's somebody you can consider. So this guy, Archer is 4.0.
Because Archer could go up at some point. It doesn't look like it yet. And Pedro is close-ish to a drop. I think he's like minus 70%. So that could be that 0.2 saving if I do that. The only thing I think about, though, is obviously we've got all these players we want to keep, like Saka, Son, Haaland, Watkins, for example. If I keep 2 free transfers and one of the big hitters gets injured, having 2 transfers, then I might actually look at upgrading Pedro and maybe going down like your Solanke route or the Darwin route. So yes, I'd lose money, but I'd have a lot more flexibility if something really big happens. Because it was a worry, like when Haaland got injured this week and I've already bought in Saliba, not having 2 free transfers feels really, really bad. I know Haaland, it looks like he's absolutely fine.
Yep.
But I could block myself out of a really good move to actually spend that money. So that's why I might wait, the power of 2 free transfers.
Fair enough. If you don't have to do it, maybe you don't do it. Okay.
Not much of a dilemma for me. That's why we concentrate on your
captaincy.
team.
Let's talk captaincy, because I think it's closer than people are making out between Haaland and Son. Yes. So what was your thinking for Haaland?
I'm not 100% set. Probably like 80% set. Okay. I don't know. I feel like there's been obviously a lot of change in Spurs after that Chelsea game. Obviously, there's been suspensions, there's been injuries, and key ones as well. I still really like Son as a pick. I just don't know if after the international break I want to go against Haaland when I don't think it's that far apart. I don't hate it. I really, really don't. And I do feel a bit boring if I just go for Haaland, lunchtime kickoff against Liverpool.
Yeah. He's at home though, so that makes a big difference.
That's the thing. Although
they're going to score 2 goals.
The home when he's at home, that's when we've captained him, and he's not actually done that well. Well, not points wise anyway.
It's true.
I don't think there's anything in that. City are much, much better at home, and there could be goals in that game as well. I think there'd be better spots to risk it if we're going to go against Haaland. I don't think this is the one.
Fair. One thing for people to remember, it's the early kickoff. So, if you do get any news on Haaland not starting or whatever, because he's had some injury issues, then at least you have a backup in mind. But I think personally, if let's say there's no leaks, right? But Guardiola has been a little bit, he's saying, okay, he might be ready. Hopefully he's ready. I might just do Son. If his expected minutes are lower than normal, then it might sway me more towards Son. But at the moment, I'm also on Haaland because I expect, Pep to say that he's fine.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, leak or minutes, that would definitely sway it. But it's a funny one because I was thinking, let's say Haaland was ruled out, and I'm not saying he is. It's not one of those games you'd bring in Alvarez and captain him instead, is it? You'd just go for Son. So it does say a lot about the fixture. It is mainly because it's Haaland.
Yeah.
It's not. I mean, let's say there was a leak and Haaland was out, and this is really hypothetical, and I don't think it's going to happen. Would you keep Haaland and then maybe do Watkins to Alvarez?
No, I would just start Haaland and just switch captaincy to Son. Or maybe if they consider starting Palmer or Archer instead, but that feels wrong over Haaland.
That's where your Solanke plan may then tip the scales, though.
Correct. You're right.
Yeah.
Another reason why I should wait.
See, I don't really have a plan there. I think, let's say that did happen, I'll just start Pedro.
Yeah.
Or
fine.
I'll do the Pedro to Archer move we talked about. And then obviously Captain Son, not Captain Archer. Not crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was my team. I think that's about it, really. Is there anything else you wanted to cover?
No, that's about it. I think that's been helpful. We went a little bit broader than our teams because we're obviously further away from the deadline. So we thought, we'll cover other people's issues, and seems like defenders are the most popular in terms of issues for people. Hibo's in the chat, I see, and he's saying, if Saliba goes out, that's something like his 10th transfer for defenders all season already. So yeah, I mean, it's defenders are not easy to pick this year.
No, I think I looked. I'm well over half of my transfers have been defenders so far, and I don't think that trend's gonna stop. I just want, one of those periods where, like we had early in the season, when Newcastle's fixtures got really, really good, and we talked about they were all nailed on. We just don't have that at the moment, and that's what I feel. Maybe Saliba's the closest thing, but it still doesn't feel like a banker like Trippier or Botman felt like a few weeks ago.
Correct. Now we'll get it back. I think losing Botman is a big one because he was a nice, steady, cheap defender that you can play in any game.
Yeah. So, and then people, I mean, I haven't had a Spurs defender this year, but I think I've got lucky because I think obviously their defence getting absolutely decimated. I think more people would have held them through and wouldn't have to worry about it as much and be rotating them.
Right.
Outside of Porro, you can't really go there, and I don't think you'll be bringing him in.
I might get Porro in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
For cash. If I hold on to cash for a couple of weeks, then Porro comes in. Maybe
it just wouldn't be before the City game, would it? It would be
after the City game.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's wrap up. Otherwise, we're going to go probably over an hour.
All right. Lovely chatting, man. Thank you very much to everyone for joining. Remember the Scout Friday sale thing I talked about at the beginning. If you didn't check it out, go check it out at the beginning of the video.
Yeah, and don't forget, Pras said he will DM him if you don't get what you need.
If you don't get that offer, if you sign up before Friday, then come to me.
Awesome. And yeah, deadline Saturday, and I'm assuming me and you will be back next Thursday, Pras, but we will tweet out when we know. See you all soon.
Awesome. Take care, everyone.